Hey, John in Denver.
All right, just in time. We are live right now. Okay, so I guess I have to introduce what I'm doing here. I don't know what I'm doing. I'm having a little live stream here with a few of the patrons from my Patreon page, and we'll just talk about whatever. I've got a little list of things I posted on my blog about, oh, here's some things I could talk about. So just in case nobody showed up and nobody had anything to say, then I'd have something to fall back on. But yeah, we got two people here. I'm astounded.
Good group.
Yeah. So what we'll need to do is, why don't we start off? You guys introduce yourselves.
Well, I guess I'm on the left on my picture. I'll try going first. I'm Sean Boyd from Tacoma. I'm a math tutor out here at Tacoma Community College and follow PZ's blog because I kind of regret not having delved more into biology and such when I was in school. And I stay for the snark too. So
Yeah, I've noticed if I get too heavy into biology, then that turns people off and they'll go away. So um, yeah, the snark and the political stuff and the weird organisms is what keeps people around, I think. Okay, John in Denver, tell us about yourself.
I'm an IT worker for Denver Public Schools, so currently at home, although trying to support my school and teachers from here. I'm usually a lurker. I don't post a lot on your forum and stuff, but I have to credit you for sort of dragging me over the line from faith to agnosticism to atheism years ago. We're going back to, if you remember when the wafers got thrown in the trash and what that controversy was like.
Yeah, I have not forgotten that.
I at the time, I actually found it a little shocking, but I kept reading, and now it seems like, well, duh, what else would you do with them? So I've kind of come a long way since then. Preacher's kids, so there was a lot to undo up here. So
yeah, we have to acknowledge the cultural background that everybody has, and this is a country where we get soaked in Christianity.
there was a lot of indoctrination there. On the other side, my mom's a biology teacher, was a biology teacher as well. So she had that going for her.
Okay, that's good. All right, so Meredith just popped in. Hi there. So we were just doing introductions here. So
Hi.
why don't you just tell us who you are?
Sure. Yeah, I'm Meredith. I've been reading your blogs for, I think, at least a decade. I think I've commented twice. So I just joined the Patreon. I thought I'd pop in and yeah, see how this Zoom meeting went. I'm American, obviously, but I currently live in Ireland. So it's about 9 o'clock at night here.
Very cool. Okay.
What part of Ireland are you from or in?
I live in Galway at the moment. I've also lived in Dublin. I've been here about 10 years now.
Love to visit when I can.
I visited Galway once and really liked it because it reminded me so much of Seattle.
Yeah, everyone says that. I think it's the rain.
The rain and the being on the coast. Yeah, it was just, it just felt so nice. But
yeah, although it's been the most gorgeous month I can remember in 10 years because we're all locked inside, so it just stopped raining completely.
of course, that's how it works.
Yeah, no, the weather in Galway appears to be actively perverse rather than just bad.
So what do you do in Galway? You said...
I work for a disability rights advocacy group, actually.
And you had to go all the way to Ireland to do that.
Well, I moved to Ireland to do my PhD. I did my PhD in law and human rights, and then I got this job.
Okay, well, very good. Okay, we got a bunch of smart people here. So why don't you guys tell me, what should we talk about? What interests you right now?
yeah, right now actually, and it's just because I'm going through the same thing as John is and as you are. I'm moving all of this in-person stuff we've been doing onto Zoom. And I'm just curious to know how that adaptation has been, and what challenges you've found, and also what things maybe were working better than you expected.
Happy to tell you a little about that. Zoom was working really, really well until about a week ago, my school district said, oh, terrible privacy issues. We can't have kids on Zoom. You have to now use Google Meet, and it sucks. We had teachers who had put a ton of work into these Zoom presentations. We had hundreds of kids sign up for Zoom accounts, and then suddenly everybody was told, nope, go use your Google stuff. And there were a lot of parents who were logging in and were like, well, what is my child's district Google account? And so we had to get all that information out to them. So we've had a lot of this type of stuff from the district, a lot of running this direction, and they say, nope, 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 everybody turn around and run that way. And just very frustrating, but we're all getting used to it. This past week was our first week distance learning, because the week before that was officially spring break. And they've now announced there will be no more in classroom school for the rest of the school year. So we'll be doing this until the end of May, I guess. It's been frustrating, but we're all getting through it. My teachers are appreciative. They're all nice people, and I'm doing what I can. Friday, I actually ran a internet hotspot and 2 Chromebooks to some lady way on the other side of town whose kids go to my school, but she has no car, no internet, and 3 children at home, and just didn't have any way to get this stuff. So I'm trying to do what I can.
Wait, so how do the Chromebooks help if she doesn't have internet?
Well, the hotspot that I gave her with them
okay, yeah,
did that. Yeah, without internet, they're not much good.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, we're using Zoom obviously right now, and I've found it fairly easy to use, and it seems to do what I need to do. I am totally aware that there are all kinds of privacy issues, and also I hear that Zoom, the company, is not exactly, really progressive or nice or anything. But the thing is, we don't have any other choice. Google isn't exactly sinless itself. So, and like you mentioned, Google Meet, I was not impressed with it.
Zoom has a nice feature set. My wife's company is using it right now, and she's been working at home for 3 weeks. It was obviously designed for corporate customers, and doing things like limiting who can be in your meeting and kicking people out, muting everyone at once. When allowing people to come in before your meeting or not, these are all things Google Meet does not have. And we just had a little kerfuffle Thursday and Friday where we learned, when you set up a Google Meet ahead of time and send it to people in a calendar, it creates this code. Well, the code can be hopped into before the meeting and after the meeting for about 90 days. So suddenly we've had kids hopping in on their own with other kids and having their little virtual chats on what's supposed to be a school district sanctioned tool. And who knows what they're doing, who knows what's going on. We've been kicking them out when we can, and we're after Google to take these codes away. It's been kind of a mess. If you use a nickname to create the meeting, it's fine. You can control that and start it and stop it when you're in. But nobody knew that the first couple of days. So we all made the mistakes.
What's wrong with letting the kids frolic? Come on, that's...
It's an elementary school in my case. So when you put 5th graders in there, and then suddenly their brother who's an 8th grader hops in, and the content tends to change a little bit. And maybe the parent, when they wander in and see that going on, isn't terribly cool with it.
Yeah, you cannot trust middle school kids.
Oh, they're the worst.
They're just evil. So, Okay. So what are you using, Meredith? What are you up to with?
So my company, my nonprofit, mostly uses Microsoft Teams. And we used that previously. Before this started, about half of us worked remotely anyway. It's a small nonprofit, about 25 people. So half were already remote. So switching everyone over to remote wasn't too difficult. We use Teams for internal stuff, and we use Zoom for outside stuff. And yeah, the security on Zoom isn't great. Most of the most of the EU infrastructure uses Zoom. And I've been on webinars with 200 people, and suddenly somebody sneaks in and starts ruining the chat. But yeah, they're easy enough to kick out. So it's not a huge problem so far. We're not discussing super secret stuff there. But yeah, everything's either Teams or Zoom. So though my fiance's company does use Google Meet for everything, I think it was cheaper than Zoom was. So yeah, they have had a lot of problems with that. But yeah, I've mostly been using Zoom for outside meetings, and haven't had any problems so far, but we don't have any children involved either. So
Yeah. Yeah, it was a little different here because all of a sudden they're telling all the faculty and all the students you're going to have to go online. And we had to instantly come up to speed. Fortunately, the lockdown started while we were on spring break. So all of us faculty were sitting at home frantically trying to figure out, how do we do this? How do we translate all of our stuff into this online format? So we had a little bit of a lead in to get it done, but still.
yeah, I think the universities here, a lot of my friends, since I did a PhD, a lot of my friends work in universities, obviously. And the universities here knew it was coming. So Ireland, Italy, and Spain had already locked down, and it was clear that Ireland would be locking down. So they had a bit of time to get everyone ready. And the school year for our universities would be ending about now anyway. It ends fairly early. So for a lot of them, it's just getting the exams online more than anything else, and trying to find a way to get that done. I think most of them have declared it's an open book exam. Just get it done, get it turned in. We're just going to get this finished as quickly and painlessly as we can.
Yeah, that's what I'm doing, because it's all open book exams. I give everyone a little preparatory lecture on Zoom, but I try to keep it short, like 10, 15 minutes. And a lot of it is just me telling them, here's the important stuff you got to pull out of the textbook. So go read your textbook thoroughly and do that. But even so, it's still a major increase in my workload, just trying to figure everything out. And suddenly have, instead of getting up in front of the class and talking to them, I have to talk to them a microphone ahead of time and don't get to ask questions. It's kind of awkward.
In Ireland, the big push was to get all the medical students graduated as quickly as possible. So their exams were all bumped up by several weeks. Everything was done. They actually held their graduation ceremonies online over Zoom. But they wanted to push the final years through as quickly as possible so they could start practice, obviously.
Yes.
Boom, you're a doctor.
I'm not that kind of doctor. Yeah, well, they are, yeah. And they're off. And yeah, even the student nurses do residencies and internships, and they're now basically being paid a salary and working almost as full nurses. So
Thrown into the deep end of the pool for sure.
Yeah.
Even our prime minister is working as a GP.
Oh.
I mean, he is a GP. He's qualified GP before he became prime minister, and he's gone back to work one day a week as part of showing that everyone should do everything they can.
Yeah, well, it could be worse in this country if our president were trying to do that.
I actually wrote an almost serious email to the government of New Zealand this morning, just begging that they lend us Jacinda Ardern for a couple of months. Because, yeah, our guy ain't cutting it.
No, he's actively harming the country, so.
Yeah, ours has been weird. We don't technically have a government at the moment. We held an election in February, and then there's a parliamentary system, a government was meant to form, and it didn't form. So the old government is the caretaker government, and they've had to take over as government with a no formed coalition or anything during the whole pandemic. But it's held together fairly well so far.
Okay.
Still sounds better than our administration.
That's a pretty low bar.
Yes, yes.
Everyone agreed on basic, like we need legislation for unemployment and for lockdowns. So all those laws passed without too much trouble. And like I said, the current prime minister is a doctor. He's a GP. So he was inclined to listen to expert advice, at least.
Those basic things were hard to do here. There were debates because people didn't think we needed that. I'm sure I'm preaching to the choir. Everybody here knows that.
Yeah, no, I do still follow the news back in the US.
Sorry. Yeah, we had a very strange transition to Zoom. It was just a very strange quarter. For one, we were closed for a week early in the quarter because we had a power outage. There's a power outage just off campus, and it took us down for an entire week, which is just bizarre. So, and then, of course, this is Zoom business, this COVID business, and we ended up going right through to the last week. And then the president of the university, of the college, at the end of that week said, "Okay, next week, finals week, is going to be all online." So instructors had a weekend to try to figure out how they were doing finals, and I think a lot of them just ended up not telling the administration they were canceling finals, but canceling finals, figuring it was better to get forgiveness than permission.
Yeah, I've decided more or less to cancel our finals too. I'm going to give them a take-home exam the last week of classes and tell them just get it back to me by the end of finals week and we're good.
Yeah.
Yeah. We're cutting a lot of corners here. It's kind of worrisome, but
Some students that I was tutoring coming in for intro differential equations class, and it sounded horrible to me at first that the instructor was just linking to some YouTube videos and then giving them homework assignments. And my initial reaction is no, but then I realized, well, she's got 3 classes to prep for, plus committee work, plus still being there as an advisor, because she's still going to have some kind of office hours. And it's just trying to figure out how you're going to do all this on a different platform. I feel horrible for the students, but I feel pretty bad for the instructors too. I mean, that's a rough transition to make in a couple of weeks.
Well, my attitude has been that the real meaning of this transition is, I cannot be the person who carries the students through the class. And so I have to throw more of the work on them. Well, more of the homework and things like that, which means they bounce back with more grading for me to do. And I'm way behind on grading right now. But that was the only way I could think of to get the content across, because yeah, I can't just give my usual lecture on Zoom. It just doesn't work because I'm not getting the same degree of feedback. So
how are your labs working then?
Oh, yeah. Well, the labs are not working at all. We can't do labs. But in my genetics class, for instance, we had already done a half semester with one major experiment, doing a complementation assay with flies. And so they knew the routine. So what I decided to do was, okay, we're just not going to do it. I initially thought, hey, maybe I can just send flies home with you. No, they don't like that idea. Having to raise flies in their house. They usually have other members of the house that would just protest ferociously by that. So I told them, okay, what we're going to do is I'm going to go back to the records from previous years. I'm going to pull out some of the data that we gathered in 2016 and 2017. And I'll explain the experiment to you. And here's the data. You interpret it in a lab report. So that's kind of what we're doing right now. We're also in a panic because the university has insisted that we have to come up with a contingency plan in case this continues into the fall.
Yep.
Which I hope not. But
Yeah.
it's a possibility. Yeah, I don't believe the people who say it's going to be over in early May. No, that's not going to happen. It's not the way these diseases work. So
No, we've been told we can expect maybe lockdown to start lifting in June, but nothing's going to go back to normal completely until there's a vaccine.
Yep. Yes, we need vaccines and we need more testing. And we're not getting the testing. We don't have a vaccine yet. Yeah.
Daisy, did your wife ever make it back from Colorado? I kept hearing she was stuck here, but I missed the fact that she got back. Is she still here?
She's still in Colorado.
Sorry.
Yeah, it's not good. I think my daughter appreciates the fact that now she's got a live-in grandmother to take care of the baby with her. So
Right.
that's very helpful. But
Yeah.
yeah, it's we've been talking about how we're going to do this, and we're kind of talking about maybe what we'll do is in May, we're going to break the lockdown like criminals, and I'll zip down there and fetch her and come back and promise not to stop and talk to anybody along the way. So,
Fill your car with snacks.
what's that?
Fill your car up with food.
Yes, pack up a bunch of sandwiches and things, and we will have to stop for gas, but that's all automated. So yeah, I can do that without interacting with human beings, which is no different from the situation right now for the last few weeks.
We used to have to make that trip from Denver to northern Minnesota fairly regularly. We had a place up on the Iron Range that from my wife's family we got rid of a couple of years ago. But the first time we tried that, I thought we can do this in a one-day drive. Not with kids, you can't. We got to about 9 o'clock and we still had about 4 hours to go, and I was almost ready to drive into the ditch on purpose, and we gave up, found a motel. But
Yeah,
a
well,
long drive.
we figured it out ahead of time. It's 12 and a half hour drive from Morris to Longmont, Colorado.
No, that's doable in one day, actually.
That's doable.
It's a long day, but yeah.
Yeah, and I've also been suggesting to my wife that maybe what we could do is meet halfway. So I drive down halfway, she comes up with my daughter halfway, and then we do, like a hostage switch and move her into my car, and then we flee back north. And so we wouldn't even have to make 2 round trips that way. We'll see.
Is your daughter going to want to give up having grandma around? I guess is the question.
Maybe not, but it's got to end. Because I just tell her I'm going crazy up here. It's an empty house. All I got is this insane cat, and that's not good for my mental health, I don't think.
And the spiders.
And spiders, yes, but the spiders are meek and quiet and don't cause any trouble, unlike the cat. Yeah, this morning the cat got all hyper. I get up, the first thing I do is I feed the cat, and I give her wet food, and then I go fix my coffee. And by the time I had my coffee, I come walking back to my office, and the cat has gone insane in there and has climbed up on this shoji screen we have folded up in the corner. And when I walked in the door, all I saw was this cat flying across the room because the screen had started to fall down, and she landed on this green screen behind me and knocked that down. And then she bounced over onto my desk and knocked over everything. That was...
Sounds like a normal cat, actually.
Why do we have cats then? If that's normal for cats, I don't know. Spiders are much, much nicer that way.
More predictable.
Yeah.
It reminds me of the SMBC talking about the domestication of dogs versus cats, and the dog's caption as a hunter saying, "Oh, fellow, oh, noble wolf, we will be fellows for all time and protect each other." And then there's the cat, and there's a cat in a grain silo, and the person is saying, "Hey, are you catching the vermin?" And the cat's response is, "None of your goddamn business."
Yeah.
You got some similarities there, PZ. You could, if you died at home, I think it's probably equal chance the spiders or the cat would use you as a resource.
No, because the spiders are neatly enclosed in cages.
Well, right. I'm just saying if they were loose like that.
Oh, yeah, if they were loose. But no.
Or do they have to kill their prey? I don't know.
No, the spiders, they could conceivably bite somebody, inject the digestive enzymes and suck stuff out. But that's not a good strategy for a spider because you do this and then, whoops. Yeah, they don't survive that very well. So, yeah, no, I don't know. It's just weird being stuck in a house with a psycho cat, and that's all I've got here. And my computer.
Hmm.
And so we hope I can get her back maybe in another month. And then at least I'll have somebody to talk to and somebody to entertain the cat other than me.
Well, here's to hoping.
Yeah. Yeah, so I talked to her yesterday and she has offered to help me with my spider project for the summer. So we'll probably work together on that. So
That's more than my wife would do. She wants nothing to do with them.
oh,
It's almost like having grad students.
yes. Uh, and she's got a PhD. She's a smart person. She's also really good at spotting spiders. She's better at spotting them in the house than I am. Um, so yeah, she would be an asset. And my project for this summer is also going to be doable because last summer I did all this stuff where I was going into people's garages and scoping out the spider situation, and that's no longer a reasonable thing to do. I can't very well call up strangers all around town and say, "Hey, can I come over and take a look and bring the virus with me and infect every?" No, that's not going to happen. So uh, that project is in hiatus. Maybe I'll pick it up again next year. But then the project I want to do this year is looking in the wild at spider constructions, because I've noticed that some of the spiders I work with build these really elaborate nests out of debris. They're not very well planned. They're just kind of a clutter of picking up little wood chips and tiny bits of gravel or foam insulation or whatever is right there, and they assemble it into this little nest that they hide in. And I find that really interesting, and I want to dig into it a little more. So that's what we're going to do.
So is it more, or is it a particular use that they have for it? I mean, is it just like a hunting blind or place to put their egg sacs or?
Well, they do put their egg sacs in there. Yeah, but I think it's to hide themselves from predators, probably, because spiders don't like birds very much. So they got to protect themselves somehow. But we first noticed these when we were going up. We just go up the freeway, and yes, for fun, we do this weird thing of going up the freeway and stopping at every single rest stop and checking out the area. And at a couple of rest stops, we found these amazing little nests where it's just, it's maybe about this big across, which
Hmm.
is large compared to the spider, but it's all those tangled bits all knitted together with webbing. And then we also noticed that they build these really thick girder-like strands to anchor it to various things. I mean, so thick that it was difficult to snap them with my bare hand. And I'm a human-sized creature, and I just found that they were like little cables. It was pretty impressive. So, so that's one of the things we can explore this summer, because we don't have to talk to anybody. We don't have to associate with anybody, and I can just go around. And so the plan would be we drive around, we check out various places, we photograph and document the structure of these nests. We maybe snip out a few of them and put them into containers and bring them back to the lab and see what they do. Um, see if they reconstruct a nest in the lab. And then along those lines, I've got a student who wanted to work with me. It's all up in the air because we don't know what student research is going to be like this summer. But one of the things I was thinking of doing is playing computer games and getting myself a Raspberry Pi and one of these nice little, these nice low light, IR cameras and an IR source, and just doing time-lapse recordings of, because they do all the nest building at night, and just watch how they do it. So again, I can do that
Cool to
without
watch.
caution.
I'd like to see those.
Yeah.
I would too. Yeah, because there's been a couple times I've discovered them doing it in the lab that I discovered that if I threw in some of these little wood shavings into, just scattered them around, I'd come in the next day and all the wood shavings were pulled up into a nest. So they work pretty fast at doing this. So that's something I'd like to look at more. It'll keep me occupied anyway. Let me take some pretty pictures, because half the fun of this field stuff is taking pictures of what you're seeing. So I've been doing a lot of that too. Yeah, the other part of this project is I am a terrible arachnologist. I freely admit it. I've come into this late in life. I'm like I consider myself roughly equivalent to a first-year graduate student in this project. That's how much I know. So it's part of the process of just getting out there, exploring what kind of spiders live out there, documenting them, getting it so when I eyeball them, I can recognize who they are. It's not a skill I developed as a lab focused biologist for so many years.
Oh, that's a zebrafish. That's a zebrafish. That's a zebrafish.
Yes, zebrafish are. I love zebrafish to pieces, and they're great animals to work with. But the thing is that they're so inbred and so predictable that if you're interested in interactions in the environment, there's not a lot there. Yeah. So several years ago, I actually managed to get my hands on a hybrid zebrafish line that was interbred with the lab species, but it was also from a stock that was collected in Nepal, which is really rare to find. It's hard to find species collected in the wild because there are so many prohibitions on importing tropical fish. It costs a fortune to do it. But they had this one line, and I started investigating them, and it was getting really interesting because they had different behaviors than the lab bred fish. In particular, if you take lab bred fish and you get them in this nice comfy tank at a constant temperature, and you throw your fish food in and it goes to the surface, and all the fish just rise to the top and they sit there wallowing, gobbling down the fish food. And in the wild, that would get you killed. There'd be a bird that'd come along and eat you. So they don't do that. And I noticed that with this line of fish is you do the same thing, throw the fish food in there, and they dart up, grab some food, go back down, and there they nibble on it. So they spend as little time as possible on the surface. And I thought that was an interesting, approachable genetics problem to see if that's actually some kind of genetic coding in them. And I was about to start breeding them with more fish and see if we could separate out the behaviors. And then the custodian or the plant engineers at my university decided to swap out the water filters. Yeah. And all of a sudden, all this unfiltered water got into the tanks. And it's better now, but a couple of years ago, Morris water was really, really hard and really unpleasant. and it would kill fish. And that's what it did. All of my fish just went bloop, belly up. And it was very traumatic. I was working in the lab with a student at that time, and he had just done a water transfer. And, just like we do every day. And all of a sudden, all the fish go belly up and are thrashing about and dying. And he was horrified. He thought he'd done something wrong. But no, it was just, they had done this, they'd swapped out this filter and they didn't bother to tell anyone. So it was the most tragic moment in my history with zebrafish here at Morris. It was just that horrible half hour where we watched all the fish die and there was nothing we could do.
I don't think that'll happen with spiders. One thing I learned spending some time in Minnesota is you would think there aren't as many spiders up there because it's so cold in the wintertime. But oh my gosh, as soon as the weather comes out, there are a much greater variety than I have here in Colorado. And a lot of very large ones as well. It's surprising.
Yeah. I've been, one of the things I can still do is get out and walk around, avoiding all the human beings, but looking for spiders. And yeah, they just started coming out maybe 2 weeks ago, we started seeing them. So first we saw a wave of the zebra jumping spiders. So we're getting lots of jumping spiders. And now we're seeing, this week I started finding others. So some crab spiders, and haven't seen any grass spiders yet. I bet they'll come along soon. And haven't seen my house spiders emerge in the outdoors yet. But I expect from past experience, we'll get lots of those in the next month. And then usually in August, we get this wave of the big garden spiders appearing. That's probably what you're thinking of. They're like this big, they're huge. Yeah. So those we saw in August.
Now my daughter at one point wanted to burn a house down because there was one in the basement and I lost it, which was the worst thing to do because, okay, I'll take care of that one, honey. And then I couldn't find it later. And she's just convinced it's going to, kill her in her sleep. So well, that's a really good socially distancing activity. If you tell the people that are anywhere near you that you're just out collecting spiders, they'll probably leave you alone too.
This is true. They did that even, well, maybe not. Wait a minute. So there's a mix of responses. So some people want nothing to do with this. They'll just leave you alone. But then others come to you with spiders with questions.
Oh.
Yeah. So I got a bunch of the orb weavers seem to hatch out in June, July. And I got all these phone calls from people telling me, oh man, my house is covered with spiders all over the place. I said, yeah, they were. We went up there and looked and identified them and caught a few. I'm not working with the orb weavers in the lab though, so it was more a matter of curiosity. But yeah, and they're so much fun because all these spiders that hatch out, they hatch out all at once, and there's typically hundreds of them in an egg sac. And so there's this swarm of little baby spiders. And then when you get up to them, they immediately start ballooning and just taking off all over the place. So it's very spectacular and cute.
Meredith's being very quiet. I'm wondering if she doesn't like spiders and wish we'd talk about something else.
Oh no, I don't mind spiders at all. It's just, given that my specialty is human rights, I don't deal much with spiders.
Yeah, spider rights. No, human rights are more important. Yeah.
No, I'm not sure if there's even a right not to be bothered by spiders, maybe. Don't know. But yeah, no, I don't mind spiders at all. I don't love handling them. I don't mind them in the house or anything, no. In fact, I was raised to, whenever I got rid of a spider web, to check the web and see if it was still active, because we didn't let house flies would get in the house. And so you were never to disturb an active spider web because it might catch some of the flies.
Yeah. Well, it's actually been a problem for me when I switched over to spiders and I started talking about spiders all the time. because there's a tremendous number of people who are arachnophobic. And I got all these pleas to not put up photographs of spiders because that meant they could not look at the web page. It was just too horrifying for them. And yeah, so I sort of tailed off, and now I've got a policy. I don't put photos of spiders directly on the Pharyngula page, just because you got to respect other people's needs, right? So anyway, I don't do that. But now I put them on Instagram and on the Patreon page you're all part of. And even on the Patreon page, you know, I've got a category where you can make contributions, but I won't show you photos of spiders.
Yeah, no, I actually joined the Patreon because you said that's where the spider pictures were going, and I do find spiders really interesting. So I thought, oh well, I have a few extra dollars a month. I'll just go over there and look at the spiders.
Thank you. Yeah, yeah. So they're and you know, if you don't have a few extra dollars to spend, I also put them on Instagram
Mhm.
with no restrictions there. So you know, my whole goal is let's do more science communication. And right now my science is all focused on spiders, and so it creates a dilemma for me. And so I want to do a lot of talking about spiders, but there are people who get horrified by, you know, things like this, just crawling around on them. And yeah, I can sympathize. I'll go along with that. So
I can speak as one of those arachnophobes, though. But I've actually it's actually helped seeing. I've gotten to the point where a still picture doesn't bother me. Now, a moving picture of a spider running around on somebody's hand can still.
yeah,
I can still get the willies out of that, but I don't have this. I don't have the extreme reaction that I used to have. So, yay.
right. And you know, ideally what I would do is strap you down and force you to get used to no, but that's not a good thing to do to people. You know, people don't have to like spiders. So yeah, I'm trying to do it a little more gently now.
Arachnophobia has always been one of my guilty pleasure favorite movies.
Oh yeah, it's a good movie.
I first saw it, I think I was 7, and I didn't get the comedy bits at all, and it completely horrified me. But later on, when I was older, I saw it again, and it was quite funny that time.
Yes. And there's another one that I kind of like is Eight-Legged Freaks.
Mm-hmm.
That one's fun. And there was one I saw recently. Oh, the big ass spider.
Wasn't that a sci-fi movie? Sci-fi network
Yeah.
movie? Yeah.
Yeah, and yeah, those are fun. I kind of get a kick out of them. With Eight-Legged Freaks, though, you could actually they were actually relatively accurate, except for the size, and you could actually do practice spider identification, watching them running around because they had so many different spiders, and they were all different species, but all based on real species, which is kind of fun.
My wife doesn't like spiders, but she does like those really stupid sci-fi monster movies like Sharktopia and or Sharktopus or whatever the.
Uh-huh.
And there were a couple. There's one of ice spiders or something like that. She enjoys watching stupid people die in these weird, funny, graphic movies. And you know, as long as it's not a real spider, she'll watch it on the screen.
Yeah, somebody on the comment just mentioned the giant spider invasion. That's an oldie. That's an old black and white movie, as I recall.
I don't think it is. It's a Mystery Science Theater movie, so I've seen it a few times.
Oh,
And it
right.
is, I think I put it in the 70s if I was guessing.
That's right. It's a 1975 movie. Yeah, now you've reminded me. Yeah, it was entertainingly stupid. Okay.
Yeah, most movies that made it on the Mystery Science Theater were entertainingly stupid. That was kind of the
Yes.
goal.
Yeah, I haven't seen the MST take on that spider. I should watch that sometime.
There's a good chance it's on YouTube. All the old episodes are. They don't police that particularly strictly. So
Yeah. Okay, some evening when my grading is done, I'll watch that. Yeah, and when I was a kid, I remember really being impressed with what was it, The Incredible Shrinking Man?
Hmm.
That's an oddball because he's shrinking and he has to fight off a normal sized spider, but it's giant compared to him. But then it got into all this metaphysics at the end, which was different, very different from most of these movies. They didn't kill everything and blow it up and hit it with napalm. He's just shrinking and shrinking and sort of pondering what it will be like when he enters the quantum realm with no consideration of the physics of how you could shrink this much. But okay, we'll let it slide.
So we know PZ's summer plans. Sean, Meredith, what are yours?
I'm still working full time, so normally in the summer I'd go visit my family over in the States, but that's not happening this year. In
Oh,
fact, we all
flights
can't.
are really cheap.
They are really cheap, but it's a bit weird because we're in Ireland. We're trapped on an island at the moment. Like even if you could go 2 kilometers from your house, which you're not supposed to, you can't get off the island, which feels a bit weird. Although it doesn't make any real practical difference. Nobody's traveling anyway. But yeah, no, we've all been talking about. None of us know how we're going to use our leave this year because we have nowhere to go or anything to do with it. So we're going to come up to December, and we're also going to take a whole month off because none of us have used any of our leave yet.
Uh-huh.
But yeah, my plan is to work all summer, I suppose.
Yeah. Well, Ireland is a green and lovely place. Why would you even need to leave Ireland? Go
I
on
think it's
vacation.
more just the sense of there's no way of you're basically trapped on an island.
That's true.
I'd rather be trapped there than here if I have to be trapped somewhere. Politics are a little better.
Yeah, well, for me, no politics this summer. I'm just gonna work on spiders, gonna adventure around Minnesota. Um, I'm on a 9-month appointment through my university, which means I don't get paid in the summer. So I get to indulge myself as much as I can afford.
Well, my job usually has summers off, and I had a 6-state bicycle tour planned for the month of June, and that's now maybe next year. Just not going to happen. A lot of it was going to be staying in campgrounds. There was a lot of staying in people's homes that I don't know, and I'm at this point not even going to ask them to honor that. And then some organized rides along the way, and those are all being canceled left and right. So the whole thing just seems like a bad idea right now. So
Yeah.
I will do some bike riding locally around here because they still let us go out and do that. And my wife said, "Oh, well, this other project list you've been working on, let me add to that for you a little bit, and you can get a few other things done around the house, right?"
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah, this is one of the few advantages of my wife being away is I know that right about now she would be telling me we got to go dig up and prepare the garden and start putting in the vegetables and all this stuff. And that's her big thing in the summer now. And no, I'm not going to do that all by myself. So yeah, means we'll have fewer tomatoes and potatoes and good things to eat in the fall, I guess. But
We don't need that stuff. We just need toilet paper.
oh. Okay, how much toilet paper do you need? Come on.
Uh, we got down to about 6 rolls a few days ago, and I started getting a little nervous because I made a visit or two to the stores and couldn't find any. And then I got lucky and found a store that had just restocked their shelves, and it was able to come home with plenty for the next couple of weeks. So it's just I still have no explanation as to why that's being hoarded.
I don't understand it either.
I get the food insecurity bit a little bit, but toilet paper?
Yeah.
Are they doing that in Ireland as well, Meredith?
They were at first, I think, because they were copying the US and Australia. But in Ireland, went on for a couple of weeks, but the government kept assuring everyone that supply lines were fine. And yeah, the stores look normal now. There's a shortage of flour. I'm not sure what everyone's doing with all that flour. You can get it, there's just a bit less of it. But yeah, no, shops here, if you ignore the fact that you stand in a queue to get into the shop, and then you have to stand 2 meters from everyone in the shop, so there's like queues for carrots, the food supplies all look normal here.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
It just seems that the toilet paper shortage is kind of the cart before the horse. I mean, don't you need the food in order to use the toilet paper?
Right on.
Well, my daughter has been trying to persuade us to get a bidet installed.
Well, those are hard to get to right now.
Yeah, yeah. So, and also I live in an older house, and for instance, there are no electrical outlets in the bathroom. I guess when it was built, they were afraid of electrical outlets in places that got wet. And
You still can't put electrical outlets in bathrooms in Ireland. You can put special ones for electric shavers, but that's it. They have to be specially designed just for shavers, otherwise you can't have them.
the ones with the circuit breaker built in.
Yeah, but yeah, you
Yeah.
can't have normal electrical outlets in a bathroom in
Yeah.
Ireland because they
Yeah.
might get wet and short. And
Right, we got similar requirements here, but you know those circuit breakers are easy to come
Yeah,
by.
the GFIs. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, you know, they make bidets that are non-electric too. They tap into the hot and cold water supplies.
That's
So-
our other problem is
There's
because
no hot water near my toilet.
Oh, well,
oh,
then you don't need quite as much coffee in the morning.
and you get that nice icy shock to wake you up in the morning.
Exactly.
Yeah. So Sean, what are you doing this summer?
Maybe working. I don't know if we're going to be open this summer or not for summer quarter. We have our tutoring center all up in line on Zoom, but enrollment is down already, and who knows? I mean, if things continue, who knows what summer's going to be like? I could see a lot of students just not even bothering. So, a lot of bike riding in my future if that happens.
Which wouldn't be so bad.
It's not so bad. Tacoma's. I mean, it's not great for biking, but there are worse places.
Yeah. Yeah.
always great at the moment because there's no traffic. So it's some of the easiest biking I've ever done. You can't go far. You can make a 2 kilometer circle around your house, but yeah, there's no cars to bother you, which is nice.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
I find the trails around Denver are now fuller, especially on weekdays, than they used to be. So there's no way to stay 6 feet away from anybody. I'm just kind of counting on the fact that everybody's outside and there's a lot of fresh air blowing around. It's probably not going to be a big deal, but yeah, they're almost crowded if you go at the wrong time.
Huh. Okay. Yeah. Now you got me thinking maybe I should dust off the bicycle I have in the garage and do some of that. Yeah, the problem with biking in this part of the world, though, is the wind. It gets really windy here.
Mhm.
Yeah. Which means it's great when you go one way, but the other way, no.
Colorado's the same, especially in the spring. You get these winds coming down out of the mountains, so I'm very careful. I had one where I took a ride almost up to Boulder, which is exactly 30 miles one way, and then I turned around to go home and realized the wind had been pushing me the whole way. That's why I was enjoying the ride so much, and thinking boy, I'm in really great shape so early this year. This is great. No, I turned around and discovered I had to fight the wind every inch on the way back, and I got back just completely trashed. All I could do was just lie down for about an hour.
Oh,
Really bad.
okay.
I don't go nearly that far, but I try to plan it the opposite. I cycle kind of towards the coast because the wind comes off the ocean. I cycle towards the coast for 2.5 kilometers and then cycle back the next 2.5 kilometers. So my reward for getting to wherever I'm going is that I get to go home with the wind behind me.
I try and make that work now. I check the wind really carefully. Well, it has changed on me a few times, but I'll head out into the wind and try and get it to push me back.
Yeah, I'm just thinking around here, the interesting stuff. You know, the parks and all that was kind of on the east side of town, which is unfortunately downwind most of the time. So maybe I won't go that route. We'll see. I might be desperate soon. Well, I'm already desperate for something to do besides grading, but it might be getting worse.
There's a lot of e-bikes out there now, you know, then the wind doesn't matter so much.
Oh, what is an e-bike?
Electric.
Oh, yeah, I saw those. They were kind of expensive though, I seem to
They're a little
recall.
pricier than a regular bike, yeah, but there's, you know, their prices are coming, like everything else new, the price is starting to
Yeah.
drop down, and what would have cost you $3,000 or $4,000 a year ago is now maybe 1,500, depending where you get it. So that's going to keep
Okay.
dropping over the next few years.
Yeah, I won't be spending $1,500 on anything for a while right now. So, still paying off legal debt. Probably will be for a couple of years. So no, that's not happening. They do rent e-bikes through the university, but now the university is closed. So that's shut off to me too.
There's nothing more demoralizing than crawling up a hill on your bike and then see somebody just zipping right by you on an e-bike and you don't realize it initially.
My old job was at a hospital. I'm extremely glad I'm not at a hospital now, because I was in and out of that ICU and the patient wings daily. But when I would commute by bike a couple days a week, for a period of about 3 weeks, there was a guy who would pass me every day on the way home. And something about him bothered me. The fact that he was just wearing jeans and a t-shirt and didn't look like a biker, just didn't look like he'd put any kind of effort into anything. Here's this, you know, old looking bike. And finally one day I said, I got to figure this out. I caught up with him, and sure enough, he's got a battery tucked underneath something where I couldn't see it every time he flew by me. And then I felt better. But yeah, I don't like that feeling.
Yeah.
Wait a minute, you're cheating. Stop it.
In Dublin, the bike lanes are full of electric scooters at the moment. And that's also really annoying because they're faster than you on a bike normally, and they're completely silent. So you're cycling, and then suddenly a person just standing straight up appears in your vision and passes you.
Yep.
And it's a really strange
Oh.
sensation the first couple of times it happens.
Oh, yeah. That's one thing I thought about for a while is, you know, one of those electric scooters would be really good around here because I don't have far to go to get to the grocery store, but sometimes, you know, you don't feel like walking for half an hour to get there and pick up something real quick. And those would be a good solution, a better solution than the alternative, which is you hop in a multi-ton car and go zipping over there. So
I don't like those scooters primarily because people leave them all over the place, half the time blocking a sidewalk or blocking a trail. And I just find it really annoying that it's just, there's no thought given to where they are. I know somebody eventually comes around and gets them, but I'm sort of in the habit of when I pass one that's more or less in my way, I sort of kick it over.
Oh, you're the guy doing that.
Yeah, then they beep at you, and I hope they're not taking pictures because they'll eventually figure out who I am. But
You just confessed on YouTube. Yeah, probably everybody feels the same way about it though, so I wouldn't worry.
Now, a lot of municipalities have rules about blocking those sidewalks to begin with, so maybe the companies won't complain so loudly.
The ones in Ireland are all personally owned. We don't have any of the scooter rental companies here, but tons of people just bought them and go around, especially Dublin, on them. Although I think it's technically illegal. They keep announcing that it's illegal and they're going to do so, and something will be done, and then people still ride them around.
Huh. Okay.
See, if you're actually interested, there's a whole cottage industry based around, I think it's either the Lime scooters or Bird. A couple different companies.
is the other company?
There are a lot of them in junkyards right now because they were removed from streets and impounded and never picked up. So you can find the actual scooters fairly cheaply, but then there are these companies you can find on eBay that will sell you a little circuit board to plug into it, so it's now yours, and it disables the control that the company had over the scooter. So if you buy this scooter from someplace, you can then buy for, I think, as cheap as maybe $30 or $40, a board which will make it your scooter and not theirs, and then you can do what you want with it.
Oh, they're short-circuiting capitalism, though.
I don't know. They're making money on their own. That's capitalism, right?
Okay, I guess so. Yeah.
If these companies are so large they don't bother to go pick up the ones that the police or cities impounded, then
Uh-huh.
what else are you going to do with them?
Okay, we have just hit the 1 hour mark. So we should probably wrap it up here.
I do need to go start making dinner.
Oh yeah, I got to do that in a little while myself. So anybody have any last words?
Just appreciate you having set all this up.
Yeah, thank you.
No problem. Sure. I'm hoping to do it fairly regularly, like maybe a couple of weeks. Because making contact with other human beings is a way to keep yourself sane. So there it may happen again. And as usual, I will announce it on Patreon, and I'll also put a note on our Discord server, so you'll be able to find it. And we'll just see who wants to show up and chat.
Sounds good.
Cool.
Okay.
Okay.
You
All right,
all
PZ.
virtually.
Yeah,
Yep.
John, Meredith,
All right.
nice
Bye.
meeting y'all.
Yeah. Nice meeting
All
you virtually. Yeah. All that.
All right.
Okay. We're ending the meeting.
Bye-bye.
Okay. Bye.
Go cook for dinner or whatever.